Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. Welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. Based on the back of the last ones, I was looking for, because I was looking at Africa, looking at origin stories and creation and that kind of thing. So I was looking at other subscribers that I go to, and one of them, Bro Sanchez TV. I found something on his, and it's I'm going to put the link. I was going to put clips, but I think I'll just put the link because there's so much that I don't think I could do it justice by picking just clips. So if you're interested, listen to it. It's really, really interesting. It's in a playlist called Herstory to His Story, and there's so much in there that makes you, that is very thought-provoking and makes you think about these things. And you know, like when you come across flat Earth and you come across the idea of, like, you suddenly realise, wait a minute, water's always level. You know, all our experience of it is, and then when you see a picture of the globe Earth, you think, well, wait a minute, every water I've ever seen always looks level, no matter the shape that it's in. Whatever shape it's in, it'll always be flat on the top. And then, so how do you square off that picture? And then it sort of makes your brain sort of think about things. This is the same thing that it happened when watching this Her Story to History. Obviously, the caveat I should put is I don't know how accurate it is, how well researched it is. It seems like it is very well researched. There's a lot of etymology as well in there that's really interesting. But the main crux of it is this idea that before 3100 BC, or BCE, depending which one it is accurate these days, before dynasties, before King Neymar, the Pharaoh of Egypt, if that was his name, that he suggests that we were in a matriarchy rather than the I've forgotten the, you know, like the male. It was female dominant rather than male dominant, and that happened after when we started with dynasties, when we started ruling. And back then, so before 3100 BC, we used to live a vegan-based life. Used to live on plants and vegetables, and we were gatherers rather than hunter-gatherers. And so I've done a little bit of research. It's very difficult, like I found on the last creation story one, to find actual facts on Google. But it does seem to suggest that early man was herbivore. He did used to eat plants and food and stuff like that. Now, no, I've heard a lot of things when I've been watching on the YouTube, for these, the people I listen to. There've often been this idea that our stomachs were never made for meat. And I know I've talked about these things before. I think it was Subtle Infinity that I mentioned one of his ones about their animals. How terrible it is what happens to animals and why we eat meat. And so it's interesting, this idea of that before the time he's describing is that women, mothers were in charge. And this does sort of work out when you think about it, like when we say Mother Nature, that obviously mothers are nurturing and all that kind of thing, and the idea of how different men and women are in general, not in total, and how that would make sense that we used to live a life where it was equality, where everyone, I do struggle to believe some of it because I know how humans are. I can't believe they didn't fight at all. There must have been some fighting, but I suppose it depends. If you had everything, what would you fight over? And the idea of that we, how, if you just eat plants and vegetables and things, which there is abundance in, there's no need to ever go hungry, because obviously, like you're saying, you just plant a seed. It's not like when it comes to when science changed, or we did change from hunter-gatherers to hunter-gatherers, made prey and predator, and then we would be having to go out and kill. And like he said that, and I know I've heard other people say this before, and I know it's true myself, that if you had to go and kill an animal, the chicken or the beef that you're going to eat tonight, and you had to do it yourself and skin it and pluck it and do all that and cut out all the insides and clean it, gut it, you wouldn't be able to do it. Most people wouldn't be able to do it. But because we've given someone else that job, we can not look about that thing. And I know I do find that very difficult. I mean, I've seen an animal only once being killed, and I videoed it, and it was, I've never put it on YouTube, obviously, but it was very distressing, and it didn't feel right, which is what he's talking about, this idea of a consciousness. But it's really interesting to say that maybe we did live better lives. You know, obviously he's saying, like, you know, our perception is, and this may not be true, this may be something that's been invented over time, is that we see the backward as being, you know, uncivilized. And like he points out, civilized is actually being trained. And, you know, like, are we really civilized now, the way that we treat each other? Like, I've been going on about these things many times, how we're living. We're not civilized, we're not human in the way that we interact with each other. And so it's interesting to see that maybe there was a time when we had everything, when, you know, we were making art and all these kinds of things. Obviously, different scientists say how old we are, whether we're 5 million years old or 1 million years old, and all that kind of stuff. But there were some really, really interesting points. I'm trying to remember what the other ones are now. My brain's just gone blank. But I will put the link in. But yeah, I know it was also about the, you know, the history being changed. I know lots of people talked about that before. Obviously, AD and BC is a bit weird. You know, it comes down and then it goes back up again. Obviously, the numbers weren't really that way, but the fact that they decided to do that with history, you know, does allow the opportunity to recreate it. And he puts the idea that the Adam story and the Barber stories and other things were to do with trying to change matriarchy to I can't even say it, from female to male led, and the idea of ruling as in to give out, and the you know, to do with the before everyone was free, and then suddenly there's rulers and leaders in Egypt and Greece, and then it all changed from then onwards, becoming rulers and leaders like we are now, where we don't have freedom. And, you know, you have to have a piece of paper to go somewhere, where everything was given you freely. So I've only listened to 2 parts. There's a lot more of them. So I'm going to put the link in for the playlist and the first episode, and then you can watch it and hear these things. I'm sure there's going to be other bits I'll think about afterwards. I'm trying to remember what they were, because I know it was, you know, it interested me to do with how we used to live, doing the vegan thing. And it does make you think, because I know myself, like, you know, we know there's carcinogenics in red meat. We know that a lot of the things we eat have got a lot of shit in them. And, you know, like, I've had a problem with cholesterol, so I'm Googling, and it says to do a Mediterranean diet, you know, have more fruit and veg and seeds, and it has made my cholesterol come down better, not 100%, but it is coming down. And so it does make you think that, wait a minute, there is something to this, that it's the meat side of things that has actually got in our way. Whereas if we all were vegans eating, well, also is kinder to other animals, and like I said, the rule of how you want to be treated is how you want to be treated is how you treat others, that rule. So yeah, it was really interesting and thought-provoking. Give it a listen. Take care, days ago, less, and peace.